Got it. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge, and let's correct my video. There we go. Okay. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County. These are misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon after being booked in, their cases have now been formally accused by the prosecutor. So if you are charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. When I call your case, we will be addressing your new case number, the charges brought against you, to set a bond and appoint counsel where necessary, and also to give you a court date if applicable. On that note, Ms. Bridgewater or Mr. Jordan? Yes, Mr. Jordan, what's the reset date? Oh, I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Thursday, February the 20th.
February 20th, got it, thank you. All right, now if you are a alleged victim, a family member, someone here who's wants to speak on behalf of the defendant or against the defendant, please switch off your video and mute your Zoom, and you can come on when you hear the particular defendant whom we are addressing, where you want to have your voice heard. But otherwise, right now, this lady with a hat with Samsung, switch off. Willie Millie, switch off your video. Shakita Samuel, switch off your video. Unless you're an attorney, switch off your video and keep your screen on mute. So, Mr. Jordan, we can go ahead and help Mr. Mealy switch off his video. Thank you. All right, courtroom 2, who should we address first?
We can start with position number 11, Ms. Hussein. You go ahead and have a seat right here.
That'll be me, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. McClain, good afternoon. And this is Faliba Renee Hussein, accused of battery from February 6th of this year. Her accusation number is 25 CR 637D. Ms. Hussein, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. McClain. And with regards to, Mr. Howard, go ahead and tell me, because I know I printed it, but it's not in my print package. So
it's in the back. I got first.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Allen, what's the recommendation?
Thank you, Your Honor. We're asking for a $1,000 SOB through pretrial and a requirement that the defendant have no contact with Ms. Julie McGuire and stay away from her residence, 136 Clare Drive Southeast. This is an incident that just occurred on the 6th, and it's essentially a crime as a result of a dispute over a property line. The police were called because the victim in this case, Mrs. Julie McGuire, reported that the defendant and her boyfriend came onto her property, were stomping on shrubs and plant life, and then got in her face and threatened her. In addition, the defendant is on video picking up or moving a large rock and putting it on top of the victim's foot, which caused lacerations. It appears that they're in a dispute about where a property line lies. We spoke to the victim today. She says they're neighbors, that they've been having incidents and issues since June of 2024, when she cut down some trees in her yard, and that the defendant and her boyfriend have been an issue. They've damaged her property and are entering her backyard without permission. So she's requesting no contact and a stay away. If you'd call for Mrs. McGuire.
Ms. McGuire, if you're on Zoom, this will be your time to unmute and start your video.
Hi, I am here. I just wanted to thank you, Anna Helena. I appreciate that in the call earlier today. And I just did want to reiterate that this is what happened yesterday.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Do you and Ms. Hussein live in adjoining properties?
Yes.
And how far apart is the one house from the other?
Approximately 15 feet.
Good heavens. All right. Thank you, Ms. McGuire. Please mute your screen. Mr. McLean? We've got a signature bond, but what about the stay away?
You're muted, Mr. McLean.
Yep, please unmute, Mr. McLean.
Sorry, I didn't realize about the no objection, Your Honor. It's unfortunate they're so close together, but she will have to stay off the property, which is supposed to be done anyway.
Does your client live at the property? Is she a tenant? Is she a mortgage holder? What's the situation with that?
No, Your Honor, she lives at 132 Claire Drive.
She lives there.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, these are neighbors.
Oh, I know.
They don't live in the same residence. I think, Mr. McLean, what the judge was asking you is, does she rent that property? Does she own that property? What's her situation?
Oh, I don't know.
Got it. Your Honor, I did fail to mention that multiple incidences during this day were caught on videotape, and that was reviewed by police, and it includes the defendant and her boyfriend repeatedly entering onto the property, damaging things, getting in this woman's face and saying things like, "Make me, this is ours," and stomping on her plants. And so that's why we're asking for a no contact and a stay away. And I guess Mrs. McGuire should probably file something with the court as it relates to her property.
Right. I think the no contact and stay away is completely appropriate.
Well, I do, but if I put a no contact, she has to stay 200 yards away. 200 yards is the length of 2 football fields. And apparently their houses are 15 feet apart.
No one's asking
Well,
for that. It just, it should be obvious, but Mrs. Hussein should not enter onto the property of this lady. And she should understand she's been officially criminally trespassed at this point and has a bond order that says she needs to not go on that property.
All right, let me see if I can cue one. Miss Ramona Miller, did you want to chime in? And what's your relationship to this case?
Yes, I would, Judge. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am Miss Hussein's daughter, and I was there yesterday at the scene yesterday evening, and this has been an ongoing dispute over property lines.
I'm
but
not interested in the details. I'm interested in whether your mother is going to stay at the property or whether I'm going to have to require her to move out.
Yes, that was my next statement, is that she is a mortgage holder of the property. This is a property that she does own.
All I needed to know. Thank you. Miss Hussein, I don't know if you're paying attention. I hope you are. I need some acknowledgement from you that you're paying attention. Okay. Your bond is going to be set at $10,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, and that's going to be on a level 2 reporting requirement. You can remain in your home at 132 Clare Drive, but whenever the Miss McGuire, Julie McGuire, or her family members or her guests or any of her licensees, that means anyone who's allowed to be on a property, are outside, you and your spouse are required to remain inside. That would be the nature of your housing situation from this point onwards. You're not allowed to step onto Mrs. McGuire's property, and you're not allowed to be outside, you and your boyfriend or your partner or your spouse, when the McGuires are outside or whether they are. You are not to communicate with them in any way, form, or manner, including verbally, through written or spoken word, through third parties, mail, email, phones, and you're not even allowed to discuss them on social media. If anybody discusses the McGuires on your behalf on social media, that is tantamount to violating the no contact, which means that your signature bond will be revoked and you'll be back in jail on either a cash bond or a surety bond. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. And you are required to report to pretrial twice a month. Ms. McGuire, if you have a record of where Ms. Hussein or her partner or her family members attempt to communicate with you in any of these prohibited manners, please make sure you make a record of it and you reach out to the Victim Advocate's Office at the Solicitor General's Department. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. And of course, just to add to this, Mrs. Hussein, if you are, say, grocery shopping, you are outside the house, you're outside the neighborhood, you're at a Wendy's burger shop or something like that, and Miss McGuire happens to be there, you are required by law to leave the premises immediately. When you are outside the neighborhood, you are required to stay 200 yards away from the McGuires and their family. But while you're in your house, then the requirement is that you stay inside while they're outside or vice versa. All right, thank you.
Okay, next, Your Honor, we could do position number 1, Mr. Alviso.
Alviso, Daniel? Okay.
Good afternoon, Judge Alex Arca. Good to see you.
You too, Mr. Archer. You've been, you're like a unicorn, a rare sighting here and there.
I know. I don't see it. Are you still up there in Milton and Alpharetta?
Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay,
Oh.
thank you. Thank you.
Well.
All right, that's okay. Mr. Daniel Alviso is case number 25 CR 0000627C. Mr. Alviso is charged with driving under the influence of alcohol and failure to maintain lane from February 6th of this year under accusation 25 CR 627C. Mr. Alviso, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Alex Arca. Can you see your attorney on the Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand this is his first arrest.
Correct, Judge. No prior history. He's a student at KSU studying construction management. He lives in Atlanta with his mother, Sandra. He's a good kid. No prior history. Right now, I'll look into the case, Judge, but he's got no priors. So I understand the state usually, well, I think the policy is usually 1,500 on the DUIs.
Let's
I don't know.
see. Let's see. Ms. Tucker, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Judge, I'd be recommending a $1,500 good bond on the DUI and a $500 good bond on the failure to maintain lane. The facts allege that this defendant crashed into the retaining wall with extensive damage. His tire was completely under the car, all the airbags deployed. He had all the manifestations of alcohol, the odor, bloodshot glassy eyes, extremely slurred speech, and he admitted to drinking 2 32s. So for those reasons, we would be asking for the $1,500 good bond on the DUI and the $500 on the failure to maintain lane.
All right. Is that acceptable, Mr. Arca?
Yes, Judge. We spoke ahead of time, and yes, that is acceptable.
All right. The bond is $1,500 on the DUI, $500 on count 2. That's a $2,000 surety bond. No illegal drugs, no alcoholic beverages, and no weapons and no firearms.
Of course, Judge.
And no driving unless he has the requisite.
Correct. I'll go ahead and go through the process and make sure I file everything with ALS through
Sounds
DDS.
All right, Mr. Arca, anything else?
No, Judge. Great to see you as always.
Thank you, sir. This case is further noticed and there's no court date. So once he bonds out, well, right now I'm just going to reset it for February 20th because he's got a surety bond. But if he makes bond, he does not need to appear for the February 20th calendar, and that will be further notice. Okay? Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Judge. Have a great weekend.
You too, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Next case.
Position number 12, Miss Eichmann. Miss Eichmann.
All right. This is Robin Eichmann, accused of criminal trespass. And I believe there is another co-defendant.
Yeah.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Timothy Booker, position 4 is the co-defendant.
All right, Deputy, if we can address both of them, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Right. So she can see. Yeah, right.
All right, thank you. This is State versus Robin Eichman, accused of criminal trespass from February 5th under accusation 25 CR 632G. The co-defendant with regards to the same incident, his case number is 23 CR 631G. His name is Timothy Lamont Booker. Mr. Booker and Ms. Eichman, you have both been advised of your right to remain silent. Ms. McLeod, who do you represent?
I don't think she knows that this was a conflict. We didn't know either.
Okay.
I don't represent either of the parties, Your Honor, but if I need to, I can.
Let me see, Mr. Shatay or Mr. McLean, with whom did you confer?
Do you have a preference as to who goes? Alex, I've talked to Miss Eichmann.
And I spoke with Mr. Booker. I don't have a preference.
All right, then in that case, Mr. Shatay will proceed with Mr. Booker. And Ms. McLeod, I'm glad to let you have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Robin Eichman.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Eichman, we will be having you speak to Attorney Robin McLeod because you would need conflict counsel. All right, in the meantime, let's address Mr. Booker. From what I understand, this is Mr. Booker's 5th arrest cycle, and he has an open case as well in Fulton County. Anything else, Mr. Howard?
I didn't see any trespass convictions.
Okay. Ms. Tucker, anything to recommend for Mr. Booker?
Yes, Judge, we'd be recommending a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial with conditions no further contact with Cleveland Watkins and to stay away from 2656 Mount Vernon Drive in East Point. The facts allege that while he was recently evicted from this property, him and his mother, Miss Eichman, were found on the porch. We did speak with the victim. He said they were evicted on February 3rd, so very recently. They waited until police left after this, and then they came back into the home. And then neighbors had called to let him know that they were back there because they had not been good neighbors. The victim does want no further contact, wants them to stay away, understands they will need a one-time law enforcement to get their belongings, but after that, he does not want them there.
Were they evicted like by manner of ejectment, or do you know any of the details?
So full eviction, and the eviction notices and papers were shown to the police when they arrived.
Okay. Mr. Shatay?
No objection.
All right. Mr. Booker, on the criminal trespass, your bond is going to be $2,500. On the marijuana charge is $500. This is a total of $3,000, but it is a signature bond through pretrial services, and it's going to be a level 2 requirement, which means that you report to pretrial twice a month. And if you fail to comply with the conditions of the bond, you will be arrested again and your signature bond will be revoked. Your requirements are to stay 200 yards away from 2656 Mount Vernon Drive in East Point, Georgia. I'm not going to give you a one-time visit to enter the property. You are allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to retrieve any of your belongings that may be outside the property. Do you understand, sir? All right. No further contact with Cleveland Watkins. You have to stay 200 yards away from Mr. Watkins and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. And no illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. Please understand that if you are seen anywhere near that property without a police officer, you can be arrested and brought up with more charges.
Understood.
All right. Report to pretrial twice a month. And also within 30 days, let us know of your new mailing address because it can't be the Mount Vernon location anymore.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Part of an inspection, I don't remember. All right. We'll move on until Ms. McLeod is ready with Ms. Eichman.
We can do position number
Yeah.
13, Mr. Johnson.
Okay,
I'm looking at. Yeah. Yeah.
Your Honor, Mr. Johnson has position number 13 and number 2 on the add-on.
okay. Let's start with position 13. This is Dejuan Johnson, accused of 2 counts of simple battery family violence from December 21st, 2024, under case number 25 CR 6388. 6388, correct. And then Mr. Johnson has an additional case that appears to have been newly accused as well. And this is position 2 on the add-on calendar, State versus Johnson 25 CR 642A. And in that particular case, Mr. Johnson is accused of 2 counts of battery family violence and 2 counts of simple battery family violence from January 4th, 2025. Mr. Johnson appears to have 14 arrest cycles. And I'm not sure. Oh, is that an open case, the one under 22-85118?
Correct. Pointing pistol at another. You got an open ag assault battery out of Superior, 24 SC 006 447, and the entering auto financial transaction theft with a 19 SC. FTAs from 2018 and a 2013 vehicle homicide charge, no low.
Okay. Miss Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. That 24 SC open aggravated assault in Superior Court is with the same victim, Mrs. Miko Evans. He was released on bond in July of 2023. It's a $15,000 good bond, and that bond order requires him to have no contact with her. The first case, number 13, is from December the 21st of 2024. Police were called to the location at 55 Far Road Northwest, specifically apartment D103. That's where Miss Miko Evans told police that she had moved in October, and the defendant showed up and moved in and refused to leave. On the 21st of December, police were called. She reported that the father of her small child, who was just born in November, had assaulted her. Initial report was taken, body camera was reviewed, and a DV investigator followed up. She reported that they were arguing while watching TV, and she decided to leave. So she put her sweater on, her sweatshirt, and she went out into the hallway. The defendant then grabbed her by her neck, put her in a chokehold, and then dragged her back inside the residence. She reported that she went to call 911, and that's when the defendant left the location. The report states that her breathing was impeded temporarily. Her breathing slowed as a result of him having his arms around her neck and dragging her inside. The child they share is very young, under 6-month-old at this point. She told police that the defendant had previously kicked in the door at the location and that she was fearful. We're asking for a $4,000 surety on that chart or on that case in position number 13. No contact with Mrs. Miko Evans and the child. Stay away from that location, which is her home, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. The incident for position number 2 in the add-on, I have also filed a count for cruelty in the 3rd degree based on the fact that the child was present. His initials are Z.E. Again, born in November of 2024, so very small.
Born in June.
Thank you. I apologize. Born in June, still very small. So this is a report from January the 4th. At about 12:10 a.m., police were called to the same location, 55 Far Road Northeast. Again, that's D103. There, the victim reported that she had made 2 reports in the last week. The police documents note that they are familiar with the couple. She said that, again, he had shown up to the location, that she'd broken up with him, and he refused to leave. She said on this incident, January the 4th, tried to pressure her into having sex and got angry when she said no. He grabbed her by the neck again and dragged her into their bedroom, where he started punching her repeatedly in her face. She was noted to have visible bruising to her face for the left eye and her nose area. And she had a busted lip. This was all documented by officers. Again, their child that they share was present. And on this case, we're asking for an $8,000 cash bond, or actually $10,000 for 5 counts, cash bond to stay away from that location, have absolutely no contact with Mrs. Evans or the child, and we'd ask for an ankle monitor, Your Honor. I would note that on the 6th of January, this victim petitioned for and obtained a temporary protective order, but it wasn't served on the defendant, and so it was dismissed. Mrs. Evans, if you'd like to do that again, he can be served while he's in the Fulton County Jail. And of course, we've spoken with Ms. Evans today. She did say that there'd been no prior violence. She did not mention the fact that they have this open aggravated assault case and he's been ordered to have no contact with her. And she actually said she wanted to continue contact with him. It's the state's position that that is not in the best interest of her or her child, and it is already against orders of the court based on their open aggravated assault case. So if you would sound for Mrs. Evans, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McLeod, I'll be addressing your client's case very shortly, so please hold. All right, Ms. Miko Evans,
Yes,
if
Your Honor.
you'd like to address the court, first of all, remove your hat. Thank you. Unmute your screen.
Yes.
All right, and if you can please step back so the light is on you. Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. Has Mr. Johnson been in contact with you last year?
Last year, no, but I never, this is a misunderstanding about that. I never knew there was a case out, period. So I don't know how that became. I don't know if the state did that. I didn't really know there was a case until this time. I seen it on the paperwork. That's the only reason I knew. So I don't know if the state picked it up and prosecuted, because I never got anything about that.
Well, unfortunately, it's not your responsibility. It's the defendant's responsibility to understand his bond conditions. So is there anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how this is helpful, because we need we don't communicate very well. We need help communicating, or else this is going to continue. We have an 8-month-old son together, and this is affecting him more than anybody. So I don't know how we're not going to continue to see each other without hurting our son. We need some counseling or something. We need to learn how to communicate, and that's what the major problem is with this whole situation, is our failure to communicate. And I don't know how we can fix this.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Evans?
That's about it. I don't know.
Please mute your screen. Thank you. Mr. McLean, I believe you are counsel for Mr. Deshaun Johnson at the present time.
I am.
And what would you like to tell us, sir?
Your Honor, Mr. DeJuan Johnson has been in Georgia all his life. He is 42. He is a graduate of Creekside High School in the Fairburn area. He has worked as a security guard at Buckhead Restaurant. He's done tree service work. He's also applying for a job at Amazon. And he lives on Oakley Road in a condo, which is in the Fairburn, Union City, actually, I believe, area. And that is listed, or is that listed? I need to look at Odyssey, but at any rate, we have the address. It's defined by the numbers. The unit number is defined by the numbers of the address. So it's on Oakley Road in Union City. Instead, Your Honor, he would like to ask the court to set on these matters as low a bond as is possible, including a signature if that were possible. But if not, then something in the neighborhood of $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 surety.
All right. So I'm looking at that open felony case that Ms. Allen has alluded to, and it clearly shows that he's required to stay 200 yards away from Miko Evans and have no contact with her at all. And that order has never been amended. So that's unfortunate that that's the situation there. And then now to be addressing 2 separate cases with very close time proximity raises great concerns. for the safety and the care of not only the victim, but her child. On position number 13, a simple Barry, the court's going to go with the state's recommendation of $2,000 surety bond on each count, and that's a $4,000 surety bond. No further contact with Miko Evans, which means, Mr. Johnson, you have to stay 200 yards away from Miko Evans and the child that you share with her. If you want to eventually have some kind of contact with the child, then I highly recommend that you file a legitimation action with the appropriate superior court so that you can get a court order with regards to visitation and custody, and then y'all can have a third-party parenting plan. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And if you do make bond on your cases, please remember that you are to stay 200 yards away. And if you want to engage in any kind of counseling or something like that, you are free to enroll in a qualified domestic violence program that may help your matters. I'm not going to order it, but that's entirely up to you. On the new case from January 4th, 2025, on each count is going to be $1,500, and that's going to be a $6,000 cash bond only. No further contact with Miko Evans to stay. Oh, sorry, this is going to be $7,500 because the state has added the additional count 5 for cruelty to children and third degree. So that's going to be a $7,500 cash bond only. And no further contact with Miko Evans and the child you share with her. Again, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And given the fact that you have now 3 separate violent cases involving violent offenses, I'm going to require you to be equipped with an ankle monitor with the expenses to be paid by you. If you miss at least 2 consecutive months of monitoring expenses, your bond will be revoked and you'll be in jail with no bond. Thank you. Next court date for both cases is going to be February 20th. Thank you. All right, Ms. Eichmann, who is position 12. Ms. McLeod, Ms. Eichmann appears to be on her 8th arrest cycle. She's already been advised that she's charged with criminal trespass stemming from this apparently an eviction matter arising at the location. Ms. Tucker, do you have the same recommendation in terms of a signature bond with pretrial and stay away?
Yes, Judge. I'm going to be requesting the same $3,000 signature bond through pretrial with no further contact with Cleveland Watkins and to stay away from that same location, 2656 Mount Vernon Drive in East Point. I already went over the facts with Mr. Booker.
Ms. McLeod, any objection to the nature? I mean, I'm going to allow them to go to the outside the property one time only with a police officer to retrieve any belongings that may be outside, because I understand that this was a dispossessory eviction by ejectment.
Your Honor, we have no objection to the signature bond, and she tells me she lives there, so I guess you will need a one-time escort to get her belongings.
Yeah, but she's not going to be living there from this point onward, so she needs to understand that.
We understand that, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Eichmann, I'm going to grant you a $2,500 signature bond, which means you won't have to pay for the bond today, but you and your family member will have to report to pretrial twice a month. You are to stay 200 yards away from Cleveland Watkins and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner, and to stay away from the address, which is 2656 Mount Vernon Drive in East Point. You're not allowed within 200 yards of that location. I will allow a one-time visit with a police officer for you to retrieve your belongings that may be outside the property, but you're not allowed to enter the property. Do you understand, Ms. Eichmann? I need some acknowledgement, either nod your head or we can unmute.
Oh,
I said yes.
Okay. And Ms. Eichmann, please understand that if you violate the conditions of this bond, you will be arrested and this signature bond will be revoked.
Okay, I
Thank
have a question. Can I ask a question? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, but he is allowed to contact me, correct? Cleveland Watkins?
Watkins, I have no restrictions against him.
Okay.
But you are required to have not contact with him and to stay away from the location.
If he contacts me, I can respond, correct?
I'm sorry?
No,
Contacts
you are
me.
to have no contact with him. If he tries to contact you, you are to ignore him.
Okay, but we have this property that we are both part of that we are trying to dispose of. So it's several of us, my siblings, him, and myself.
You might want to retain an attorney to deal with Mr. Watkins with regards to any of this property, but you cannot be at the property. You cannot speak to Mr. Watkins, even if he contacts you, and you cannot be anywhere near him.
All right.
All right, thank you. Your next court date will be sent to your new address, so you're required to update the court with your new mailing address within 30 days of being released.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
That can be a P.O. box, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Whatever your address is, yeah.
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, courtroom 2, am I going to proceed there or should I go to ACDC?
We're gonna do position number 14 and going to Mr. Joyner.
14, okay. Making sure, okay. Jakorian Joyner is accused of battery family violence from January 28th of this year under accusation 25 CR 6398. Mr. Joyner, this appears to be your second arrest cycle. And Mr. Howard?
I got an open battery out of Clayton County. That's it.
Do you know if it's also a DV case?
It is, Your Honor. I've reached out to the clerk there to see if I can get copies of the bond information and the accusation. I haven't heard back yet, but it is 2 counts of family violence battery, 2 counts of simple battery, family violence, and a regular battery.
All right. And what's the state's recommendation?
We're asking for a $2,000 surety bond, Your Honor. No contact with the victim in this case. Her name is Tomisha Collins. I believe she's on the Zoom. Tomesha, Collins, common spelling, and stay away from wherever she may be living or working, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Police were called at about 3 p.m. on the 28th of January to 2839 Connolly Drive. There, they met with the victim. She reported that the defendant struck her in her face multiple times. She was seen to have a laceration to her lip and an injury to her hand. She wasn't sure how she got it. She said that she was struck specifically in the mouth. They'd argued, they'd tussled, and as she turned away from the defendant to walk away, that's when he started striking her. She reported that they share a child and they lived together previously, I believe. A domestic violence investigator followed up and obtained the warrants here. It states in these documents that they'd had an argument and she'd asked him to leave. And again, I said, as she turned away, he started to strike her. It's also noted in the documentation by police that they'd been to this location multiple times, that multiple 911 calls have been made by the victim, and that she always says she's fine. She doesn't want anything to happen. Today, on this date, January the 28th, she said she was tired of protecting the defendant. We talked to Mrs. Collins today. She says that her position has changed, that this is all a misunderstanding, that she was the initial aggressor, and she wants to continue to have contact. Your Honor, we would argue that that's not in her best interest or the best interest of the child. And it's a direct contradiction to what she told police when she was in crisis on January the 28th. If you'd sound for Ms. Collins.
All right. Ms. Tomisha Collins, if you'd like to unmute and all right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Hi. First of all,
No, not yet.
I'm sorry.
Not yet.
Go ahead. I can hear you. I'm sorry. The phone, it moves slow. It's Android. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's not a good support for Android phones, but
I'm
Ms.
sorry, I
Collins,
apologize.
do you have are you involved as a victim in another case in Clayton County?
No, ma'am, that has nothing to do with me.
Okay. What would you like to tell me?
Okay, like I said, to I think Miss Iman or Eman earlier today, at that moment when I was speaking to the police, I let him know that I just wanted him to leave for a minute, and he's not black, he has a different ethnicity, so I was talking kind of fast for him because he did ask me to slow down, so I really feel that he misunderstood me as well, so I don't want to say that he's lying about anything or anything like that, but I think he did misunderstand me as well. I never said that he struck me in the face repeatedly. That's not true because y'all, it was just a few days ago. Y'all will still see some type of bruises or something if he was striking me in the face because he is still a male. It all come down to we are young. We have every day is not going to be perfect. You know, I'm 21, he's 22. He's a great dad. He's a good person. I understand that he might have past history with his prior family, but that didn't have anything to do with me. But some days are not good. You know, every day is not going to be perfect. And I genuinely just made a mistake. I did hit him first. He called me on my name. I did hit him first, and I had no business doing that because they're just like if I was on the street and somebody called me out my name and I hit them. That's not right. I can't do that. So that's the only reason why he hit me back. They said that he hit me in my face. They said that I stated that he hit me in my face. I never said he hit me in my face. The blood that was on my lip came from the finger because I was wiping. I was like really overwhelmed that day. I was crying. I was yelling, stuff like that. And I was, I told the person earlier, Miss Eman. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. I told the person earlier, Miss Eman, that that's where that blood had came from. It wasn't from him hitting me. The hit landed here. I hit him. He hit me back, and it was a tussle. We were in there fighting. He wasn't beating on me. He wasn't no weapons got involved, no nothing. And it was not around my child. He's a great dad. My son knows who his dad is. My son misses his father. Like just by these 24 hours of him being gone, I've had a hard time with just getting my son to sleep because his dad is not around. I had to literally play my baby's father's music just to get my son to calm down. So what the police is saying, like I said, I don't want to call the police a liar, but I think he really misunderstood me. Yes, they have got calls here, but it have not been 1,000,001 calls. No, it has not. It's just me asking them to remove him from the premises for a minute, just so we won't get into a further altercation, or so that we won't, make it worse. So that's why I asked them, and they've even had conversations with both of us, like both of us letting us know we shouldn't, fall out and stuff like that around the kid. But I have.
And I am done. Thank you. All right, please
Okay.
mute your screen. Thank you. All right, Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Your Honor, he has an address at 325 Lou Lane. He's 22 years old, as she said, from Georgia, 12th grade education, and he works in restaurants, Your Honor. We'd ask the court to set the bond as low as possible, including a signature bond, if that is possible.
All right. Miss Collins, I totally understand your position because a lot of things look different in the bright light of day, but unfortunately, the officer has got a sworn warrant. They've also got body cam footage, and I think it would be incumbent on the prosecutor to look at that footage and see what exactly transpired. Was it the version that you provided, or was it the version that the officer has from that day? And perhaps at the next court date, the state may have a different idea of how to move forward in this case. But when there is a domestic violence situation, the decision to prosecute the case is not with you. It's not with Mr. Joyner. It's completely with the prosecutor. They make the final decision as to whether they want to move forward with the prosecution. The biggest concern I have is that there is already an open battery case involving Mr. Joyner, and I am really concerned about his bond status in that case pursuant to this new arrest. With this new case, the bond is going to be $3,000. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Tamisha Collins, and no further contact with the child that you shared with Ms. Collins. You may file a legitimation action to obtain a court order to establish paternity, visitation, and custody with the child that you share with Ms. Collins, and then it'll be up to the Superior Court whether they will allow in-person exchange or whether they will allow a third-party transfer of the child. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and your next court date will be February 20th. Thank you.
So may I ask a question?
Yes, Ms. Collins?
So he has bond, so will he be able to make bond?
If he posts the bond, he'll be required to stay 200 yards away from you and your child, and he'll be required to make sure that he comes back to court. Also, Mr. Joyner, you'll need to update the court with your new mailing address because right now, according to the booking, your address is at Connolly Drive and you cannot live with Mrs. Collins. Thank you. Next case, please.
Position number 1 on the add-on, Mr. Jalen Brooks. Joyner.
Jalen Brooks is in courtroom 2, and he's accused of battery and simple battery under case number 25 CR 643A. Mr. Brooks, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Chate. I don't have his GCIC, Mr. Howard.
We got a 2025 shoplifting, 07 FTA trespass. I forgot to put the total on here, but that's it.
All right. Ms. Tucker, do you have additional information about his GCIC?
History? Yes, I have 4 total arrests, including this one. An 824 battery, family violence, and cruelty in the third out of Clayton, and a December 24 battery out of Clayton. This is a dual arrest with position 3, Michaela Bangham. So the facts are going to include the both of them. I'm not sure if you wanted to have her and her attorney here as well.
No, we'll just proceed with him first.
Okay. So I am going to be requesting a $5,000 good bond on the battery and a 25. Oh, nope. I'm sorry. That was for Miss Bangham. So that history was for Miss Bangham. I don't have any additional history for him. He only has the 2024 theft.
Okay.
So for those reasons, I'm asking for $3,000 good bond on the battery and a $1,000 good bond on the simple battery with no further contact with either victim, Giovanni Stewart or Joshua Bangham, as well as no further contact with the co-defendant, Miss Bangham. And to stay away from the location at 952 Trestle Tree Court in Atlanta. The facts allege that Michaela Bangham and Mr. Brooks are dating. Michaela Bangham was going to her father's home, Joshua Bangham, to get a laptop. Now, we've spoken with him. He let us know that's his younger daughter's laptop, and she was never supposed to come and get the laptop. So when she arrived, she was banging on the door, screaming, causing a ruckus. He eventually opened the door and she pushed him out of the way. That's when Mr. Brooks got involved, and they both started pushing and getting involved. Now, the other victim, Mrs. Stewart, is dating Joshua Bangham and, mentioned to Mr. Brooks, let's not get involved. And Mr. Brooks replied, nah, you want to die, and started pulling her hair. Then they both jumped on victim Joshua Bangham, stomped him to the ground. Defendant Bangham put her fingers into victim Stewart's eyes, causing visible bleeding and swelling. Victim Joshua Bangham suffered a busted lip from Jalen and scratches on his shoulder from Michaela. They had never met Mr. Brooks before. He just showed up with the daughter. And so they do not want any contact with him. They do not want him at his place. And they let us know that the incident in Clayton County that I mentioned for Michaela, that's with her other sisters. So, I understand Mr. Bangham is on the Zoom today, if we wanted to sound for him.
All right. Ms. McLeod, we are addressing Jalen Brooks right now, and I've got Mr. Chate representing him. So after this, I'll address Michaela Bangham, okay?
Chairwoman.
Mr. Joshua, I'm sorry, Ms. Tucker, what was your recommendation for bond for Jalen Brooks?
3,000 good bond on the battery and 1,000 good bond on the simple battery with no further contact with either of the victims, Joviani Stewart or Joshua Bangham, and no further contact with the other co-defendant, Miss Michaela Bangham, and to stay away from 952 Trestle Tree Court in Atlanta.
Okay, thank you. Miss Joviana Stewart and Mr. Joshua Bangham, if you'd like to address the court, please unmute your Zoom panel. All right, Miss Stewart, is there another device on over there? All right. Maybe you might just want to use one device. Stewart, please raise your right hand. Other right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, what would you like to add?
I don't have anything to add. As you see my face, that's about it. I don't really have nothing.
All right.
It happened, and that's what happened.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Joshua Bangham, if you want to contribute, this is your time to unmute and start your video. Ms. Stewart, you can mute your video, please. Thank you. Joshua Bangham? No? Okay. Mr. Chate, any counter?
Yeah, he's trying to connect now. He's saying hello. I don't think y'all can hear him.
Then he can use your phone, but your video.
Okay, I'm finna help him out. Give me 1 second.
All right, Mr. Shatai, I'm not going to be waiting. Yes, what's your recommendation for Jalen Brooks?
The lowest surety amount that would secure his return for future court dates, Your Honor. My client is 22. He's lived in Atlanta for most of his life, finished school through the 11th grade, and he's currently an influencer on social media with about 700,000 followers, is my understanding. And lastly, according to his PSA, he has no violent convictions or FTAs within the past 2 years. So for that reason, I ask for a lower surety amount and the lowest reasonable one that would secure his return.
All right, thank you. Mr. Joshua Bangham, if you want to address the court, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it will.
Do you have anything to add with regards to Jalen Bangham?
Yes.
Jalen Brooks, excuse me.
It's all right. Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
So technically,
don't walk around. Just stand still.
I know how to get out the sun so I can see the stream.
Just go ahead and talk. We can see you.
All right. All right. So basically, the incident with Jalen, like I said, we don't know him at all. But the fact that he came to my kid's mother house with the other, because I got charges on him for Clayton County also. Because him and Michaela went together and they took my pregnant daughter's jar full of money.
Okay, so the one in Clayton County involves your other daughter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. You may mute your screen.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Mr. Chate?
No, Your Honor.
All right. On the battery charge, it's going to be $2,500. On the simple battery, it's going to be $1,500. The total bond is going to be $4,000. And that's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Joshua Bangham. No further contact with Joviana Stewart. No contact with, well, I don't know what's the name of the daughter, so.
Yes, Judge, it's position 3, Michaela Bangham.
No, the younger daughter. I don't know who that is, but in other words, stay away from the Bangham family completely. no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and you're to stay 500 yards away from 952 Trestle Tree Court in Atlanta, Georgia. 500 yards is the length of 5 football fields, so please remember to stay away. Your next court date is going to be February 20th. Thank you. Ms. McLeod, we have Michaela Bangham, who is an ACDC, and Ms. Bangham has also been advised of her right to remain silent, and her attorney is Maureen McLeod. And I understand that this is also her 4th arrest cycle. She's got an open case in Clayton County for battery, as well as an open shoplifting case. Anything else to add, Mr. Howard?
She got open battery and an open battery DV with a cruelty.
Okay.
Clayton County.
All right. Ms. Tucker, we've already gone through the allegations. What's your bond recommendation for Ms. Bangham?
Yes, Judge, in this case, considering the open batteries, I'm asking for a $5,000 good bond on the battery and a $2,500 good bond on the simple battery family violence. The only difference in this case, her father does still want contact, but does not want her at the home. So no further violent contact with Joshua Bangham and Joviani Stewart. No further contact with Mr. Brooks, and to stay away from the 952 Trestle Tree Court, Atlanta address.
Okay. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 18 years old. She tells me that she does DoorDash. She doesn't really have a regular job as such, Your Honor. So I would ask the court to consider a more reasonable bond for her. She denies the allegations and she tells me that her dad actually attacked her, that he bit her, and that essentially she has scratches and abrasions all over her body from his attack on her. She also tells me that her dad was the one who contacted her and told her that she should come over to his home to pick up this computer, which she tells me is her MacBook. And dad told her that she should come to his house, and that was why she showed up there.
Okay.
And when she got there, she was attacked by dad and his girlfriends.
All right. Mr. Joshua Bangham, if you are still on Zoom, did you want to add anything with regards to Michaela? No? Okay.
Can I? Yes. Hello.
Yes, please start your video.
I'll try. I'm using Joviana's phone, so she helping me. Hold on.
That's fine.
Good
The prosecutor indicates, all right, Ms. Joviana.
There's it. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Bangham, the prosecutor indicates that you still want to have communication with Michaela. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
What would you like to tell me?
At the end of the day, Michaela is a disturbed child. She needs help. I need her in a drug program and all, because now she is making it to the point her sister is 16 and she keep fighting with her and she feels not safe.
What's her sister's name?
Jalea Bangle. That's the open case she have in Clayton County.
Jalea?
Yes. Jalea, Jalaya.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
And
no, that's good. Thank you so much.
Mr. Bangham, Your Honor. My client's mother is also on the Zoom, I believe.
Okay. What's her name?
Her name is Miss Shaquita Samuel.
All right. Miss Shaquita Samuel, if you want to, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Bangham, please mute your screen. Thank you. Shaquita, I did see her putting some chat messages out there. Miss Samuel, you need to unmute and start your video if you want to contribute to the proceedings. Did you want to say something? You would need to unmute.
Sorry, good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. Did you want to contribute to the hearing?
Yes, so.
All right. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Does Michaela live with you?
Yes.
All right. And where is that?
In Clayton County, in Forest Park.
All right. And what would you like to tell me?
I mean, I've struggled, for a while with Michaela having anger issues, and I just wanted her to get in some type of anger management program. Her and her father have had like a rocky relationship. But I just wanted to get her in some type of anger management to kind of help her with her anger, because I've tried and it's just been very hard because I'm a mother. We have 5 children together. So I just want her to get help with coping with her anger.
All right.
To be honest.
On the battery charge, the bond is going to be set at $3,500, and that's going to be a surety bond. On the simple battery, that's going to be $3,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Or actually, she's got the other open case, so it has to be level 3. Your total bond is going to be $7,000. It's going to be a split bond. If your next court date is going to be February 20th. In the event that you post bond, you'll be required to report to pretrial services once a week. And within 30 days of posting your bond, you are to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. And this will be a series of 26 weekly classes that you will have to attend and complete at your expense. No further contact with Joshua Bangham, no contact with Joviana Stewart, no contact with Jalila Bangham, and no contact with Jalen Brooks. You are to stay 200 yards away from all these 4 individuals and not communicate with them in any way, form, or manner.
Okay, so one I'm sorry to interrupt. So one last question.
Yes, and you do not get to interrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
As I was saying, you report to pretrial once a week, and if you get arrested again, if you violate any of these conditions, or if you don't respond to court summons when required, the other portion of the 3,500 signature bond will be revoked, and you'll either be in a no bond status or cash bond or a surety bond. Okay? So make sure we have a good mailing address. Also, you cannot return to the Trestle Tree location. You have to stay away from your father, his friends, and the rest of the family living in Trestle Tree. If Joshua Bangham attempts to communicate with you, by law and by court order, you're required to not respond. Understood? And with regards to the laptop, that issue will remain unresolved until a final outcome in your criminal cases. All right, Ms. Samuel, what was your question?
It was regarding the laptop. I wanted to know if I was able to pick it up.
Nope.
Because me and their dad talked about that. And
if Mr. Bangham wants to give you the laptop, that's entirely between you and him.
Okay.
But Michaela and Jalen cannot be involved in that issue at all.
No, I would, if I would get it, it would be on my own, not with any of my kids.
As long as Michaela and Jalen understand that these are now multiple cases of violence against them, and they violate them, they could end up in jail with no bond.
Okay, thanks.
Sure not to speak.
All right. Thank you, folks. You are all free. Ms. McLeod, I don't think, are you good, or you got a couple more?
No, Your Honor, I believe that is it for me. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. ACDC, who do we have?
Judge, real quick, for the first charge, it was 3,500 surety bond, correct?
Correct. Count 1 is 3,500 surety. Count 2 is 3,500 signature bond to pretrial level 3.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be petition number 8, Ms. Green Thomas.
This is Mariah Shantrika Green Thomas, accused of 3 counts of battery from May 27, 2024, under Accusation 25 CR 635E. Ms. Green Thomas, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Chate. And I understand this is her third arrest cycle. She's got a driving without a suspended license matter from February 5th and a forgery matter that was dismissed in 2016. Anything else, Mr. Howard?
No, but it was driving without a valid license.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're correct. Thank you. All right, Ms. Allen, anything to add?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from May 2024. It takes place at a complex 2423 MLK Junior Drive Northwest. The children named in the accusations were visiting family at that location. It is the grandmother's residence. They were there for Memorial Day. Police were called and 2 children at least were transported to the hospital to receive treatment. This was about 9:40 p.m. Mom of the juveniles, Jarnisha Hunter, reported that while she was with her mother in her home, the children were at the playground there at the location, and someone came over and told her there was a big altercation happening. So she went to go see what was going on. She's got twins, Tamaya and Jamaya, last name Lamar, Lamar. These little girls were 13 at the time. When police questioned the individuals on scene, there were about 20 people that came over. It was determined that Mrs. Mariah Green Thomas, whose date of birth is 4/13/95, just to give some context, we've got victims who are 13 years old, as well as an outstanding warrant that's active now for another person named Shankavius Johnson, another woman with a similar date of birth. They were both identified and warrants were obtained for their arrest for batteries against these young children. So it's reported that groups of children were playing. A little boy who was about 4 years old fell over. The Lamar children went to go help. And the defendant in front of you, Mariah Green Thomas, and a group of other people she was with, started to yell at these young children to not touch her kids. This was observed by Jarnisha Hunter, as well as obviously the children. They were told to get away from this child. People started throwing wood chips. And then at some point, the adults got involved, and Mrs. Mariah Green Thomas repeatedly punched Jamaya and Tamaya. Tamaya had a bloody nose, bruising on her face and her mouth. And Tamaya had, or excuse me, that was Tamaya. Jamaya had bruising on her mouth as well. We spoke to the family today. It's actually reported that Tamaya sustained a fracture in her neck and had to wear a brace on her neck for a period of time. And there may have been a diagnosis of a concussion as well. Another child was also part of this and was 10 years old, so even younger. Your Honor, based on the facts of this case, we're asking for a $3,000 surety. Again, these are adult women assaulting 13-year-olds at a playground in a complex. We'd ask for a $3,000 surety, $1,000 on each count. Absolutely no contact with Jamaya or Tamaya Lamar or their mother, Jamisha Hunter, or Jarnisha, excuse me, that's Jarnesia, to stay away from that location. And no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And we'd ask for some anger management, Your Honor. And if you would sound for Mrs. Jarnisha, it's our understanding that the victims in this case are quite upset about this incident and maybe emotional. Thank you.
All right, Miss Sharnesia Hunter. All right, which one is Miss Hunter? All right. To anyone who's under the age of 17, could they please step away?
That would be Mrs. Hunter and the 2 victims named in the accusations.
All right, so, and yes, ma'am, what's your name, please?
My name is Jarnisha Hunter.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this location, 2423 Martin Luther King, is an apartment complex. Do you live there?
No, my mother.
Okay. And when's the last time that you visited the location?
We were just over there last weekend.
I'm sorry, what?
So we was just there last weekend. We usually go over when my mom is off work.
Okay. So, and do you also live in the city area close by to your,
No, ma'am.
you live out of state?
No, I stay in Henry County.
Oh, Henry County. Okay. And have both your children received medical treatment?
All three of my kids did.
All right. I understand this was a very disturbing incident for you. I just want to be sure that you are still a regular visitor at that location. Would that be correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell me?
Um, I mean, I thought maybe you would be able to talk to my daughters. I know they told me you may ask me permission, but if you can talk to my daughter because she's the one that experienced it, I'm hurt because it's my daughter and I could help her, but my baby one experienced it.
Your child wants to do what?
No, I said if you can get a word from my daughter, I would approve of that because I'm hurt because it was my child, my kid. But my daughter is the one that experienced it, and she's the one still going through it. So I would rather you speak with
Oh,
her.
I absolutely understand and appreciate that. And your two daughters are TL and JL, right? Because we try
Yes,
not to use their full names in open court.
yes, ma'am.
And they're both under the age of 16?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. If you mute your screen, please. Thank you. No. Mr. Chate?
Yes, Your Honor. We just asked for the lowest surety bond value that would secure my client's return. My client is 29. She's lived in Atlanta her whole life, graduated from high school, and she has been a McDonald's manager for 2 years now. Moreover, my understanding is she has 4 children at home that she cares for. And lastly, based on what I saw from the PSA, there were no convictions or FTAs.
All right. Thank you. All right. On count 1, count 2, and count 3 of the battery, the bonds are going to be $3,000 each. That's going to be a $9,000 signature bond through pretrial services level 3. Ms. Green Thomas, I'm going to give you a signature bond, but you will have to comply with the conditions. If you fail to comply with the conditions, you will be back in jail, and it will be either a cash bond, a surety bond, or no bond. All right? You can return to the 2423 Martin Luther King location where you live, but you cannot be anywhere near the common areas, including the parking lots and the playground areas where minor children are there. Do you understand that? I mean, if you have to go to the parking lot to get into your car to drive somewhere, you need to do that, but you cannot be hanging out there. You are not to step out of your home if you see Miss Shanicia Hunter and her children at the location. You either leave the apartment complex or you remain inside. But otherwise, you are to stay 200 yards away from Shanicia Hunter, and you're not to communicate with her and her children and her mother in any way, form, or manner. So in other words, you cannot be at the playground. You cannot be outside if Shanisha Hunter and her family are visiting grandmother, and if the grandmother is outside, you cannot have any communication with her. While you are out on this signature bond, you will enroll and complete 24 anger management classes, and you will enroll in those classes within 45 days of being released. You will pay for each of these classes at your expense, and you need to show proof that these classes have been completed. The only thing I'm concerned about at the present time is, given the alleged injury sustained by the victims in this case, the Solicitor General's office has the option, once they get the information, to ask the district attorney's office of whether this could actually be raised to a felony charge involving injuries to children. All right? So it will be in your best interest to comply with the conditions of your bond and pray that the prosecutor does not upgrade these charges. Thank you.
Next, we could do position number 3 on the add-on calendar, Mr. Penn.
This is Torrance Penn, accused of criminal trespass, case number 25 CR 641E. Mr. Penn has another open case, I believe, 23 CR 8458E. Mr. Penn, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and your attorney presently is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, do you have his GCIC?
47. 2023 afraid conviction. 2 trespass arrests from 2018. I didn't see the disposition. 2017 probation, 2016 and 15 FTA, and a 2015 possession of cocaine conviction.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. The open case, that 23 CR, it's in a bench warrant status. It actually takes place and it involves the same location, 345 East Peachtree Street, the Civic Center MARTA station.
Yes.
It's alleged that on the 6th of February, so yesterday at about 9:36 in the morning, the defendant was seen and recognized by MARTA police when he walked into a clearly marked restricted area stating criminal trespass, do not enter. At that location, he was taken into custody. We'd asked for $1,000 surety. He does have that open case and failed to appear for a plea and arraignment on that one, dealing with the same location. We'd ask for a stay away, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and we'd request a social worker visit, Your Honor.
Okay. He's scheduled for SAP on February 18th, so that's the reset date I'll give y'all if he receives a non-release bond. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Penn has been in Georgia for 30 of his 59 years.
Mhm.
He is homeless, but he washes trucks for the JB Hunt Trucking Company. He has given me a relative's name, phone number, and address. So he does have connections to the community. We would ask the court to set the bond as low as possible, given the circumstances. Thank you.
Bond is set at $1,000. It's just a surety bond. Stay away from all MARTA property. Next court date will be February 18th. And both these cases will be scheduled on the February 18th SAP calendar. This new one and the 23 CR 008458E. Mr. Penn, you have a bench warrant in the older case, so you will be addressing both cases. Unless you make bond, then you'll need to make sure that you report back to court when summoned. But in the meantime, you cannot return to any MARTA property, including the Civic Center MARTA station. Thank you.
Position number 9, Haynes.
This is State versus Rajoni. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Rajone Hames, Hames, case number 25 CR 636F. Ms. Hames is accused of theft by taking from a June 17th, 2024 incident. Ms. Hames, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr.
4 total. 2023 shoplifting. 2021 suspended license no low, and a 2019 DUI conviction. 2019.
No bench warrants? No FTAs?
No.
Okay. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is indeed an incident from June. It's June the 17th of 2024. It takes place at a repair shop, 3315 Jonesboro Road, Southeast. Police were called and the larceny from that location was reported. They went to the location and made the report, met with people there, and did follow-up work as well. Basically, what they determined is that the defendant had come to the location after calling and requesting someone assist her in servicing her car. She called and spoke to Mr. Steve Francis, who told her he was not going to be able to fit her in immediately that day. This made her angry. She relocated to the location, showed up there very angry. She's on surveillance coming to the location after being told they weren't able to fit her in. She actually spoke to Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis was able to provide her contact information to police because while she was there and captured on surveillance, she decided in her anger to grab a set of keys off of the counter of the location. Those keys belonged to a stranger, but someone who was having their car serviced there, Mr. Michael Gales. And as a result of this incident, those keys have not been returned. The young woman in front of you subsequently had her car repossessed, and inside that car were this gentleman's keys. So he missed work on that day and had to be told, hey, I'm sorry, something's happened and some random angry lady came in and took your keys. It's about $1,300 so far that it's cost this gentleman to repair his keys, replace his keys, rekey his car, etc. Police made contact with the defendant. She admitted she was intoxicated and upset when she came to the location and took the keys, and said that she was unable to get his keys back because her car had been repossessed. We're asking for a $2,000 surety to stay away from that location. The repair shop have no contact with the victim in this case, Michael Gales, and we'd ask for no drugs, alcohol, and weapons, Your Honor. We did speak to Mr. Gales. He says, like I told you, he still hasn't received his keys back, and he would like no contact. If you'd sound for him in case he's joined us, thank you.
Michael Gales or Steve Francis, anybody wants to contribute, this would be the time to start your video and unmute. All right, Mr. McLean. Oh, is it Mr. Shatai? Sorry.
My client, Your Honor.
Oh.
Yes, Your Honor. I would like this court to consider the possibility of a signature bond, if not the lowest available surety amount that would secure my client's return. My client is 26. She's been a lifelong resident of Rome, Georgia. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and she currently works at as a server at a restaurant called The Rail. She started there about 2 months ago. On the PSA report, I saw no violent crime convictions or FTAs. With respect to the monetary amount, I think it should be lower because on the affidavit for arrest, the officer gave a breakdown of the amount that was allegedly stolen, and out of the 1,200 or 1,300 or so, 500 of that was from missed days at work. I don't think that would qualify as a theft by taking. So, with those considerations in mind, I would ask this court to consider what I asked for earlier.
All right, thank you. On the theft by taking, that's going to be a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Ms. Hames can sign up for a bond, but she must report to pretrial twice a month in person to pretrial services. To have no contact with Steve Francis and Michael Gales and stay away from that particular location. What was it? The 3315 Jonesboro Road. I don't know what it's called, but whatever. Yeah, whatever is that car repair place, she cannot return to that location. She is not to consume any illegal drugs and no alcoholic beverages, and she'll be subject to random screens by pretrial. So if she fails to screen, or if she gets arrested again for anything else, if she doesn't report to court when summoned, that 2,500 signature bond will be revoked. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we can go to position number 6. Mr. How you say that name?
Number 6?
Yeah, Dandridge Marvin.
Give me a moment.
It's number, who said Campbell? Sojourner?
Position number 6. Give me a moment. I think
Oh, Dandridge, Marvin? Okay.
Marvin Dandridge. Mr. Marvin Dandridge is accused of giving false information to an officer, case number 25 CR 634Y. Mr. Dandridge, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
10. Open trespass, damage to property in state court. You want the case number?
Yes, please.
23 CR 003 410Y.
Okay.
23 CR 004 812Y. That's for disorderly conduct.
And
Got
then,
one more. Got a battery. 24 CR 000 513Y.
okay, got those case numbers. Yeah. And
24 FTA probation, and I think he wanted out of Alpharetta and Sandy Spring.
okay. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge, we'd be asking for a $2,000 good bond. That's based on the history you did hear. He has multiple open cases that he's out on bond, yet reoffended here. You did hear he has at least that one FTA. I have noted 3 FTAs in the past 3 years. The facts are not that severe. While officers were in the area investigating a shots fired call, he was in his car. Smoking marijuana, gave a false name, Khalil Estrada. He wasn't involved with the shots fired. I think he just gave him a false name because he knows he's in trouble with his other open cases and he was smoking marijuana. But based on all those open cases and FTAs, we are asking for that $2,000 good bond.
All right. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, I keep cutting out and it waited until this very case to do that. So if I might step outside to make sure the signal is good. Sorry to make everybody dizzy.
No problem.
Your Honor, Mr. Dandridge has a private lawyer to take care of the Sandy Springs and Alpharetta holds. I was trying to get hold of his family to see if the person would be aware of today's 2 o'clock hearing or not, but apparently not. We would ask for a signature bond, Your Honor, primarily based on it is not a large case. He is from Georgia. He's 20. He's got a lot of fish to fry, but he's fixing to, as they say, sit down and take care of all those things. Thank you.
Well, unfortunately, his FTAs doesn't help him. So bond's going to be set at $1,500. It is a surety bond. We will reset all 4 cases to the SAP calendar on February 20th unless he posts bond. Unfortunately, if he does post bond, he will not be released. He would need to be picked up by whatever pending holds he has. Thank you.
Position number 7, Daniels.
Arnold.
I got first for this.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, that's my case. This is a case from yesterday, February the 6th at about 2 in the morning. On Fulton Industrial Boulevard, officers responded to a vehicle located on the side of the road. There they met with the defendant. She admitted that this was her vehicle. She'd been driving. She admitted that she had consumed multiple alcoholic beverages. Field sobriety tests were given to her. She showed indicators of intoxication with the HGN and the one-leg stand, and she was arrested for a single count of DUI. We're asking for a $3,000 SOB through pretrial, no driving without her license, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. This is her first criminal arrest. She has a substantial driver's history that includes improper passing and multiple citations for speeding.
Okay. Miss Kiana Daniels, I just want to let you know that this is a DUI case against you for under case number 25 CR 000630D. And you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney will be Mr. Chate. As you've heard from the prosecution, we understand this is your first arrest, and it is unfortunately driving under the influence of alcohol. Mr. Chate?
No objection.
Well, I appreciate the prosecution being so magnanimous about the signature bond, but I've already read the warrant and I do not grant signature bonds on DUI cases. The bond is going to be set at 1,500. It is a surety bond. You once you post bond, your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. Please make sure that you maintain a good address with us at all times. You are to also refrain from consuming any illegal drugs, no alcoholic beverages, and no weapons and firearms. Your driver's license is only going to be temporary for up to 30 days. So unless you take the appropriate steps with the Department of Driver Services, you're not allowed to drive after 30 days unless you have a valid driving privilege, adequate insurance, and proper registration. Thank you. Next court date is February 20th.
Thank you, Judge.
Next, Your Honor, we have position number 2, Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Machete, do we have any waivers from you today?
No.
Okay. Corey Arnold is accused of simple battery, family violence, and battery, family violence from February 6, 2025. Mr. Arnold, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Chate. And Mr. Arnold appears to have, this is first arrest. Ms. Tucker, anything to add?
Yes, Judge, we'd be asking for a $3,000 signature bond on the battery family violence and a $2,000 signature bond on the simple battery family violence for a total of $5,000 with no further violent contact with victim Myshela Dallas. The facts allege that the victim took the defendant's phone, so he chased her. They ended up on the ground in a struggle to get the phone, and the defendant bit her right shoulder, leaving a visible bite mark. We did speak with the victim, and I believe she's on the Zoom today. She let us know that they are in a relationship. She did get a positive pregnancy test back. She has not gone to the doctor to confirm it, but that would be the defendant's child. She says this is the first time this has ever happened, so she's not in fear of the defendant. She wants continued contact. That's why we're asking for that no further violent contact. And based on his lack of history, we're asking for that $5,000 total signature bond through pretrial.
All right. Anything to add, Mr. Chate?
Nothing else to add, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Dallas, if you want to contribute to the proceedings, you would need to unmute and start your video. On the simple battery, it's going to be 2,500. On the, it's going to be 1,500. And the battery family violence is 2,500. The total bond is going to be set at 4,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Mr. Arnold, you are to report to pretrial services twice a month. You are to have no further violent contact with Ms. Myshela Dallas, which means that you can communicate with her, you can live with her if you choose to do so, but there cannot be any physical or verbal altercations. Otherwise, your bond will be revoked. Within 30 days of being released, you will enroll in a qualified domestic violence program. This is a series of 26 weekly classes, and you will need to attend all 26 classes without missing or skipping any of them. And you need to pay for those classes out of your own pocket. No illegal drugs, no alcoholic beverages, no weapons, and no firearms. You will be subject to random screens by pretrial services. The next court date will be sent to your current mailing address, so please be sure that we have your correct address at all times. Thank you. Next case. Ms. Dallas, she's gone. All right. Courtroom 2. Mr. McLean, did you have any waivers?
Your Honor, I did not have waivers. Mr. Harry Head, however, is one that we see very often, and I saw him today. And indeed, he has slipped right back into incompetency. We need to stick him right on the competency calendar, Your Honor. He was on the competency calendar not so terribly long ago. And I sent a memo out to colleagues saying, you know, what is it that works? Or is there a particular bunch of meds that will get him back to competency every time that we release him? So we just, we don't have anything we can do today for him, Your Honor.
All right, courtroom 2, is Mr. Harry Head available? All right, Mr. McLean, did you get an express waiver from him? I understand it might be difficult, but
He's just, it's an IST matter, so he wouldn't be competent to waive or not waive.
his bond is going to be set at $1,000 surety, unless the state wants to have anything else to add.
No, Your Honor, we're in agreement with that, and he should be added to the competency calendar.
All right. $1,000 surety, stay away from the incident location, no illegal drugs, alcohol, weapons, social worker visit, and next court date is going to be 20th. I'm trying to remember whether, yeah, that would be the 20th at 11 a.m. All right. Let me just go over the calendar. On the add-on calendar, position number 1, Brooks, was a $4,000 surety bond, reset date of February 20th. Position 2, Johnson, that's a $7,500 cash bond only, reset date is February 20th. And position 3, Penn, that's a $1,000 surety bond, and that's a reset date to February 18th, along with his other open case, 23 CR 8458E. Okay. On the main SAP calendar, position 1 is a $2,000 surety bond, reset date February 20th. Position 2, Arnold, is a $4,000 signature bond for pretrial level 2 with an FVIP requirement. Position 3, Bangham, is going to be a $7,000 split bond. Reset date is February 20th with an FVIP requirement. And this is reporting level 2. 4, Booker, is a 3,000 signature bond for pretrial level 2. Position 5, Sojourner Campbell. Are we addressing that case today? Mr. McLean, Mr. Chate, did you get a chance to speak to Ms. Campbell?
Mr. Chate, I believe that I saw
Yes,
that.
Ms. Campbell's and Grady. They're not available for today.
All right.
So it has to be reset.
Sojourner Campbell is going to be reset till tomorrow, February 8th at 2 p.m. This won't be a Riverside issue. Please make a note, this is a Grady reset. Excuse me. Dandridge is going to be a $1,500 surety bond, reset date to February 20th, along with his 3 other cases. Position 7, Daniels, is a $1,500 surety bond, reset date is February 20th. Position 8, Green Thomas, that's going to be a $9,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 3, with anger management required. Position 9 is Hames, and that was a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial, level 1.
You said level 2, I thought.
Did I say?
No, level 2.
Level 2, okay, sorry. Harry Head is, presence is waived. Mr. McLean, it would be best if you submit a written waiver of his presence, based on his incompetency issues. All right. And his case is reset to February 20th at 11 a.m. Position 11 is a $10,000 signature bond for pretrial, level 2. And position 12, Eichmann, is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial, level 2. Position 13, Johnson, is a $4,000 surety bond. And that will be reset to February 20th with this other open case. And position 14, Joyner, is a $3,000 surety bond, reset date to February 20th. And yeah. Anything else, folks?
Judge Law, position 9, was that 24 weeks?
Yes,
Anger man?
at 24 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't 9, that was 8. Thank you.
And, thank you. Your Honor, number 14, Joyner, what was the dollar amount?
Position 14.
Yes.
Joyner's a $3,000 surety bond. Reset date's February 20th.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions, folks?
Thank you.
We had an individual on iPhone. I don't know who that is. And I have a Willy Millie. Have we addressed your cases or?
Sorry, my dog is barking. Willy Millie is the victim in position 5, Miss Campbell.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Mealy, we're going to reset her case till tomorrow. And if she appears, then you will have an opportunity to address the court. Okay? I don't know who's on iPhone, so. All right, that concludes the proceedings. Everyone have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm trying to see about Harold Sweets.
Could you start your video, please?
I gotta look at get another phone. Who the hell is this? I'm trying to see how I started.
Mr. Jordan, you may have to prompt her. I'm sorry, what's the name?
Harold Sweets.
Spell the last name?
SWEET.
And Miss Allen, have we accused a Mr. Sweet today?
That individual was not one of the cases we prepared today. If we could get a date.
Hold on, I got it. Hold on. Let me see.
Thank you.
Oh, he went to felony.
All
He
right.
got cocaine with intent, firearm stuff.
Was there a bond set?
I'm just looking at the booking. I can go find out real quick if you want me to.
Yes, please.
All right, hold on.
You gone? He went back there. He said, "Yeah, you the bathroom."
We can mute the iPhone until. Okay, thank you.
$15,500 is his
Okay.
bond.
Oh, thank
They
you.
just did him in felony.
All right. Ma'am, the one asking about Mr. Sweet?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. He was in a different calendar involving felony cases, and he
Yes,
was
ma'am.
$15,000 surety bond. So this is misdemeanor cases with the state court. You would want to reach out to either the district attorney's office or the public defender's office who handles felony cases.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, you're free to go. All right, everyone, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Bye.
He got felony. He was a felon when he got cocaine. But he got a bond. He got a bond. Yeah. Hey, you want a cigarette? What the bond is? One count is 15,000 and the earn is 5,000.
They gonna need about 2,000. He can work with a bonding company and probably gonna pay about 1,000.
How much you do?
115,000, 15,000. He must have the Fed sale case. He couldn't have had nobody told on him. He had to have a sale case for them to make that shit $16,000.
And they made it in it